Ansarullah targeted the King Khalid Air Base in Saudi Arabia with ballistic missiles and drones. With not just one barrage, it was reported that there were at least 2 or 3 barrages of ballistic missiles and suicide drones launched at the King Khalid Air Base, as well as Aba International Airport in Saudi Arabia. For those of you who've been living under a rock, the U.S. and Saudi Arabia still maintain a siege on Ansarullah, their government in Yemen, the people of Yemen in Sana'a, and all the regions controlled surrounding these major cities in Yemen, Hodeidah as well, meaning that it is impossible for planes to either land or exit from these airports. In Sana'a in particular, we've seen at the end of the U.S. bombing campaign last year, Israel joined in to bomb several of Iran's, some of their Yemeni Airlines planes that were there, some of their Airbuses, jets that were there. It just so happened to be right after I left Yemen, and I was there with Mandela Mandela, Nelson Mandela's grandson. I was there with Pepe Escobar. I was there with the former prime minister of Iraq. We saw that they really didn't like the fact that so much international attention was being brought to Yemen, and people were seeing that Yemen were just normal, God-fearing people that wanted peace, but they have a backbone, they have a spine, and are willing to defend themselves. So after we left, they bombed their airport into smithereens to make sure that no one could come back for the near term, right? So Iran did something pretty unthinkable over the past 2 weeks in the lead up to the funeral of Sayyid Ali Khamenei in Tehran. There was a lot of Yemenis who obviously wanted to come and pay their respects to the martyred leader of Iran. And there was over 100 members of a Yemeni delegation, which were essentially stranded in Sana'a, that wanted to come to Tehran. So what did Iran do? They said, we are going to break the U.S.-Saudi siege on Yemen. We are going to land a Mahan Airlines flight in Sana'a, despite whatever warnings come our way. And we're going to pick up those Yemenis. And that they did. They picked up the Yemeni delegation, over 100 members strong. And they did it in this plane right here. You can see Mahan Airlines, which is actually the airline I flew to Tehran myself just about the same time. The delegation of Ansarullah from Yemen arrived to bid farewell to Sayyid Ali Khamenei in Tehran. This is them at the diplomatic funeral service on the first day of the procession, actually before the first day of the procession. Now, there was a bunch of high-level officials. I was able to meet with and interview some of my friends. There's the former vice prime minister was there. The Daif al-Shami, who's a member of the National Security Council in Yemen, was there. He's one of, the co-founders of Ansarullah. He's the former Minister of Information. He fought in the first battle in Sana'a, and he was injured in it. He was shot in it, and he escaped capture. Also, Mohammed al-Bukaidi, who is a governor in Yemen and a spokesperson, senior official in Ansarullah, I met as well. So they had a very powerful group of Yemeni Ansarullah leaders and journalists and business people that were all present in Tehran for this show force in breaking the Saudi-U.S. blockade. Now, the real nightmare began when this delegation was on its way home. They were actually airborne on their way back to Sana'a from Tehran after a very successful and beautiful and safe funeral procession took place for the martyred leader of Iran. They were headed back to Sana'a, and what ended up happening shocked a lot of people, shocked myself even, not because I'm surprised at the depravity of the Saudi Arabian government, but because I didn't really think that the Saudi leaders would do something as stupid as this. All right. So as the Iranian Mahan airline flight was carrying the 100-plus delegation back to Sana'a, and as it was airborne and nearing its final destination in Sana'a, what did Saudi Arabia do? They bombed Sana'a International Airport, which we have some videos of. You can see right here. Now, I don't really understand the purpose of this. It's like, okay, so what was the Iranian airline going to do? Were they just not going to land in Yemen? I guess they could have landed in Oman, hypothetically. They weren't going to land in Saudi Arabia, the country that's bombing the airport that they're trying to land at. So I don't really understand what the thought process from Saudi Arabia was behind this. Like, oh yeah, we're just going to bomb the Sana'a airport and surely they'll land somewhere, but this will all go over very well and Yemen surely won't respond, right? No, of course that's not what happened. Of course Yemen is going to respond to this. Before they did, of course, they landed in Hodeida, which is the coastal stronghold of the Yemeni government. And obviously, that has seen quite a bit of action since October 7th. Lots of airstrikes on Hodeida, but they managed to land there despite ongoing warnings after the initial Saudi airstrikes in Sana'a. The Saudis were warning them, like, hey, guys, don't land here. It's not going to go well. They landed there. Everything went well. The delegation arrived safely, and they broke the blockade once more. So that's their plane landing in Hodeida, breaking the aerial siege yet again. And this is very important for a number of reasons, because and not only is it dragging Yemen and Saudi Arabia into this war in a big way, but also it's serving as a new precedent that, like, you are not going to continue this blockade on Yemen's airports. You are not going to continue this. We will have the capacity to take flights in and to depart from these airports. And if we are blocked, it's not going to be pretty for Saudi Arabia or for whoever else tries to stop us, right? So what we saw happen next was not all that surprising either. Millions of Yemenis flooded the streets in Sana'a and across the country, rejecting the Saudi aggression, the U.S.-backed Saudi aggression against the Sana'a International Airport, which was directly targeted at this delegation that was trying to land there, coming back from Tehran. And moments later, we saw huge celebrations because it was announced that Yemen decided to respond. Ansarullah targeted the King Khalid Air Base in Saudi Arabia with ballistic missiles and drones. With not just one barrage, it was reported that there were at least 2 or 3 barrages of ballistic missiles and suicide drones launched at the King Khalid Air Base, as well as the Aba International Airport in Saudi Arabia. You can take a listen to this video to see what exactly Yemen had up their sleeves. Now, obviously, Saudi Arabia has a very strict control on the information, that leave Saudi Arabia. So if you are to record something like this and publish it, you could face life in prison. You could get a death sentence. So you're not going to see a whole lot of videos. There were some very viral ones circulating online. Some were fake, some were real. This one was real. And it goes to show that there, in fact, was an explosion because Saudi Arabia came out immediately and tried to claim otherwise. According to the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, its air defenses dealt with the missiles. I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me because, like, the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen is not even located in a region that would have been able to meaningfully stop these missiles. Assuming they had, like, state-of-the-art surface-air missiles, maybe. But, you know, they have Yemen from Sana'a, they have a straight shot into Saudi Arabia over Sana'a. So it's like, that doesn't even make sense. So Saudi Arabia came out and initially they claimed that all the missile attacks were unsuccessful. It is true that some of the missiles were intercepted, but then they changed their tune. They said, oh, we dealt with the attacks from Yemen's Ansarullah. Well, yeah, you didn't stop all the missiles. Some did make impacts at the Khalid Air Base as well as Aba International Airport. Yemen then published a statement. I'm not going to read it all for you, but you can listen to this part, which I find pretty important. They said, the Saudi enemy, after its reckless decision to launch its unjust attack on Sana'a International Airport, bears full responsibility for the grave consequences of this brutal aggression, which serves the Zionist American enemy and all the resulting repercussions. The Yemeni armed forces affirm their unwavering commitment to the cause of repelling this aggression and lifting the unjust blockade imposed on the country. In this context, we warn all airlines against flying through Saudi airspace and urge them to take our warning seriously until the blockade on Sana'a International Airport is lifted. So it does not appear as though this threat against Khalid Air Base and Aba International Airport, as well as other airports in Saudi Arabia, is going to be going away anytime soon, so long as there are not concrete promises from Saudi Arabia that facilities and planes will not be targeted or obstructed in Sana'a, Yemen, for Yemen to be able to operate. Okay? Now, this concrete promise from Saudi Arabia may or may not already be in place. We don't know. I mean, I do not expect this to be something that's going to be aired out on the public airwaves. This will likely be a diplomatic deal that is made behind the scenes. But one thing is for certain. Saudi Arabia did not retaliate to Yemen's attacks on Khalid Air Base nor on Aba International Airport. Even their proxies in Yemen said that they don't want to escalate, as if they knew that it was not going to be the right moment and it was not going to end well for them. Okay. Mahan Airlines, therefore, is expected to operate more flights to Yemen in the near term. We'll have to see. However, after this, we did see that Saudi Arabia launched surveillance drones above Yemen today, and they were shot down by the Yemeni air defenses with those Iranian surface-to-air missiles, which have been provided to them and which have done a great deal of damage to the U.S. and its allies in both Yemen, above Yemen, and above Iraqi airspace as well. So, very big news out of Yemen and Iran effectively breaking the U.S.-Saudi siege on their airspace, on their airports. And I can't imagine that this is really a fight that Saudi Arabia wants to pick right now, because not only can Yemen do extensive damage to their airports and their bases, because we know that Yemen did extensive damage to Saudi assets in the 10-plus year decade of U.S., Saudi, UAE-led aggression against Yemen. Yemen now has ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, advanced drones, advanced surface-air missiles, air defense systems. They can do extensive damage to air bases. They can do damage to literally the palaces of the leaders of Saudi Arabia. They can do damage to airports, to Saudi Aramco, which they were able to accomplish even during the 10-plus year war against Yemen. So, I mean, now they have a far greater capacity to do a lot of damage there. And also they have the capacity to shut down the Bab el-Mandeb Strait in the Red Sea, which would be a big problem for Saudi Arabia right now, given all the problems that they're facing in the Strait of Hormuz. That would be a travesty for them. So, Yemen is in the command and control seat right now, and it doesn't appear to be changing anytime soon. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.